One of the first playtests of Left 4 Dead by Valve changed the entire structure of the game. I'll get that in a minute. But first, I want to bring up, someone brought up a question of what do you think of that stuff that leaked out earlier, the early Terror Strike, Left 4 Dead type map that leaked earlier? I think it was last year. Is it embarrassing to see the early stuff surface, or do you think that's cool to have die-hard fans get something, see the process of something being made? No, it's super cool. We would save all of that if we thought it was important at the time, right? You're working. You don't know what's important. You don't know what's... It's like when people talk about the beta version of Left 4 Dead. I don't know what that means. Like, because we change stuff all the time. Like, it was a fluid process going through that, right? But be very careful of people who tell you what it means who weren't there. I'm going to use an example here, and I rarely call out any creators on any apps, but this person on YouTube, you can't block them on here, but you should. Okay, and so they made, it's Robocast, and they made this video, Why Back 4 Blood failed. First, it didn't fail. Second, nothing they say is true. I was there. There's actually 3 different of their why this failed thing that I was a present or I know intimate details about. They have no clue about it. And so you see this a lot where people just hear these crazy things and then they just repeat them. And people want campfire stories. They don't want the truth because, I don't know, that's what they want. But you can't learn from campfire stories. You can't learn from ghost stories, right? What you learn from is people who are actually there talking about it. And so that's why you should always kind of seek that content out and just disregard that content because it is just crap full of lies and they're just trying to be sensationalistic. As somebody asked me the other day, I'm like, on the stream, they're like, oh, I heard the rumor is that Left 4 Dead 3 was finished, but then you guys wanted to change it to Unreal, so you scrapped the whole thing. Like, what part of that? Okay, I'm going to just don't listen to that crap. Okay, but here is something that really happened is, so it was right after this early Terror Strike. We're still calling it Terror, right? I am the first person at Valve who's working directly on the game with Michael Booth a lot, right? And so I'm like, hey, there's gonna be a problem here, and I'm either gonna get in an argument over it or I'm just gonna let playtest solve it. And that's always the best answer. So we bring so Michael would come up with builds, and I would help coordinate the playtests up in Seattle. That was like very, very first stuff I started doing, right? Writing and everything, right? Okay, but again, you just try to be helpful. Just try to not to manipulate, just be helpful. So I'm helping him out with this, and in all of the maps, there was only 2 maps in the beginning. There was an outdoor map and a city map, and at each one you hit this point where you know how there's actually for the original Left 4 Dead there's 2 outdoor maps and 2 city maps, right? Well, because there's a split, and you would go down one path or the other. And like in the outdoor map, there's the place where you go into the train car, right? And you make that little jump into the train car. There were 2 train cars. And when Turtle Rock played it, right, they just were like, they all went to the same one because they were polite to each other. And that's, of course, hey, we're going to go this way. I want to go this one. All right, we're going this one. When Valve play tested it, 2 people went in one, 2 people went in the other, and like, I'm moving, you move. And it was stalemate, game over. And partially they were being like, you can't have this as a design in public because this isn't going to work. And partially because, that's the way we play tested. It was very rough and tumble. But it was like a really clear, this does not work. We can't ship this. We have to fix this. And so then we actually changed the structure of the game. And instead of having these branching paths happen, we just made them into separate campaigns. It was an easy solve. But get an argument over it or let playtest solve it. And this way, though, you have to playtest with a big diverse group of people and not just even your friends or not even just, well, it depends what you're making. If you're just making something for your friends, then just play test with your friends. But I'm saying, like, if you want something that's played by everybody, then you got to do these kind of things where you play test with a whole bunch of different people. And it's one of the reasons why I think this Wednesday we're actually going to play Mortarmen if they're ready for the play test. But our Discord, we played other stuff all the time, and now we become a bias of who we are. But sure, but that's a bigger group that gives access to it because I'm always worried about smaller developers not having a big access to play testers. And so we try to open that up and have that. And that's one of the reasons why, because we learn this process that you've got to have as many different people playtesting your game as possible, because that split, when it was just this small team at Turtle Rock, that split seemed entirely reasonable because it always worked. It always worked. And it took, other types to have that split not work.